Good morning, programs. Welcome back to another morning of procreating. See what I did there? For those who tuned in yesterday, you can see that I did not actually do the tale without you. Decided to do it with you today. Didn't do my homework. So we'll do the tale today, and then I thought that we don't really have enough funkified skin either. Um, so we'll do some funkified skin right quick as well, then we'll move on to the shading. Since we're doing black and white, I'm calling it all shading, but some of it would be considered colors if we were doing colors. I'm also feeling a little bit better today, so I think I'm gonna get a puff while the Apple Pencil is charging. And then today we're also going to do top 5 video games all time. Opinionated, of course. My top 5 video games of all time. Unless I'm saying that the top 5 is what I think are the best for everybody. It's just going to be my opinion. Me giving my top 5 films, in other words, doesn't mean I think that they're the best movies ever. It would be me saying that they're the ones I like most. Which are two different things. It's very rare that I put extremes on things like that. So you'll be, in addition to what I think are the top 5 video games of all time, you'll also be learning a little bit about colors and a little bit about, um, I guess hue and saturation and shading. And still some line art, since we're going to be, since we'll be finishing up the line art from yesterday's lesson. Packed that a little too well, been doing that a lot lately. There's a trick to packing your pipe. The first pack you don't go very hard. And the second pack, which is basically different layers, you do go hard. If you're a pipe aficionado and you don't have a multi-tool, I suggest one. There's a reason it comes with a little pick. Much better. And as you can see, it's not as sunny today. That's probably one reason why I feel much better. It's supposed to rain for the next few days. That'll be a nice change. All right. One great thing about Apple Pencils is they don't take long to charge. You can typically charge them in the pad as well. And the pad charges them pretty fast. And this is a sign that my Apple Pencil is old. It's become like a morning ritual. Usually I do it without you. Today you get to see it. So while I'm setting up the Apple Pencil, which can just be tedious as hell, there we go. Can talk a little bit. Oh yeah, I also forgot the saliva layer. I thought about that last night. Middle of the night. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying, let's add a different layer. Let's turn LiDAR down a little bit. This is what I was talking about by funkified. We don't have much of this going on, but we should. It's a chaos beast, so there should be some nastiness. More nastiness than I had accounted for. So I already know what my top game of all time is, or when there's a series of something, it gets difficult for me to put it into top fives. I typically tend to group things together in the series. So like, for movies, instead of saying Guardians of the Galaxy, I'd say the Guardians of the Galaxy series. Makes sense. Although that's not really always the case, if I'm honest, because sometimes they're just not. Sometimes the sequels are just not that good. Sometimes the first one's just not as good as the sequels. There's that. Which is going to be the case in my favorite games. Um, Without a doubt, my favorite game of all time. It's probably the second one, but it's the Mass Effect Shepard trilogy, which is just called the Mass Effect trilogy. There is a game that's just the Mass Effect trilogy, and it's 1 through 3. There's a reason why Andromeda is called Andromeda, because it's very removed, we'll say, from its predecessors. And no, I did not like it. So this is an example of what I was talking about before. But for the longest time, my favorite game was, oh, that's too much. For the longest time, my favorite game was Final Fantasy VII. And the Mass Effects changed that. It may have taken a little bit for me to decide that, but it's definitely the case. I've played through them a few times. I think 3 times total. I've played through the trilogy. Done different types of shepherds, or I guess personalities of shepherd and classes of shepherd, different romances, etc. Because if you haven't played Mass Effect, that's really the thing. Um, they're giving you so many options for your story. I guess I didn't do an audio check today. Don't you know today's going to be the day that it doesn't work? So the Mass Effect trilogy is giving you a lot of options for your story in the um, shape of choices that Shepard can make and relationships, like actual relationships, not just friend relationships. Actual relationships that Shepard can have, sexual or more. Um, and there's also like a father figure for Shepard, which is cool. Morden. We love Morden. Morden's the best. Yeah, let's add something there as well. Then, so the Mass Effect trilogy was made by BioWare. You'll probably recognize the game if you're a fan of Baldur's Gate. And they really coined the market, cornered the market on choices in games. Like if you play, so Baldur's Gate had a lot of choices, sure, but if you played Knights of the Old Republic, that was them as well. Um, that's where they started the whole, Paragon thing. It was really light side and dark side, but they incorporated that into Mass Effect 1 through 3 as well, in the form of the Paragon board, or chart, or measurement, thermometer, whatever you want to call it. I kind of want to do that over one of the eyes. Should I do that over one of the eyes? Oh yeah, I didn't get my disclaimer out of the way up front like I said I was going to do. So if there is something that you um, want to learn, need to learn, or you're having trouble with, make sure to put it in the chat or comments, and then I will try to touch on it. If there's ideas you have for future top fives, same scenario, put it in the chat or a comment. Maybe for that eye. Put it over this eye. I didn't really explain what I'm doing. If you haven't figured it out, sorry, there's a fly in here. I just created another layer above the line art, and I'm using the same brush, which is my calligraphy brush, and I am adding some little horrific details. So I basically, so layer 5 is the details. So I select layer 5, I add some funkification, maybe one over here too. Then I go back to the bottom layer and I erase that line art. And the reason I do it this way is because it's a lot quicker. It's easier for me to tell what I'm modifying. Therefore, it's quicker. Yeah, I like it. And then you just turn the line art back up and you merge the two. Zing. And notice this nose line was not quite right while I was doing that. Okay. See, that looks cool. Now we got some chaos funk. And we could also, like, we got a bunch of fur. We'll add a little more fur, a little more fur. Actually, we'll do that like that. We can add some more warts. Now I keep using the phrase black and white. If you're used to doing black and whites, then you're probably expecting me to just go ahead and start using black for my shading. But you've probably, if you attended the other prior lessons, you also heard me keep referring to it as grayscale. So when I do black and whites for people's books, black and white books, I do a little different, which is what we're going to be doing today. Ah, I knew I saw something else. That right there. So it's not just black and white per se, because it's not black and white. Ergo, not black and white. I should stop calling it that. The rat tail is not going to be a straight line, not a smooth line, because it shouldn't be. Oh, I'm missing segments. It's looking more bony than segmented. Now, if this tail wasn't so big, I'd probably just do this as a solid line and then dash the segments anime style. But since it's so big, we're going to give it a little attention. Yeah, anyway, so like I said, Mass Effect 1 through 3, best games of all time, IMHO. And if you haven't played them, they've got a Legendary Edition, Mass Effect 1 through 3, Mass Trilogy. I think it's called Trilogy. It actually might just be called Trilogy. No, because I think there was a standard trilogy. But the Legendary Edition Mass Effect Trilogy is what you should play. They updated the graphics, and that is it. And I honestly think if you're a gamer, any gamer, should play those games because they're the best. Oh, got some hairs there. Funny fact, I haven't actually played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. A travesty, I know, but whether in my old age or my busy schedule or whatever else, I just don't play as many games anymore. I try to keep, one or two that that looks horrible. In fact, that all looks horrible. Let's erase a little bit. There we go. What was I saying? I tried to keep one or two games on hand to play, and that's really about it now. So I usually look for games with high replay value. If that makes sense. And since both of my boys are on different sides of the US, games are really the only choice for congregation. So, like my oldest and I play games together a decent amount. So I tend to look for games that we can play together. Like Warhammer 40k Darktide, great game, might make it into the top 5, but I need to decide how my top 1 is though. I'm probably just going to say, oh, well they did put them out together, so I could just say Trilogy. Yeah, so Mass Effect Trilogy, that's my top 1. I really didn't think that the coloring and shading would take up the full 2 hours. There's one reason why I didn't go ahead and do this without you. Okay, and then and remember, when you're doing little details like this, of course it's not super detailed. Again, the amount of detail really depends on the amount of time and effort you have to put into the piece, which usually is dependent on what they want. This one is a quarter page, so we got to make sure it's dark-ish, at least in spots, which I wasn't doing. But it's also just not very detailed. But when you do details, whether they're minute details like this or heavier details, you want to keep in mind where your light source is going to be. A good trick there is to some artists will actually put a layer with their light source. Like you could add a layer 6, I think it would be for us. You could add a layer that is your light source and put it on top of everything to remind yourself when you're doing all this where the light source is going to be. Because basically, you don't want your details to be on the side. Well, I guess that depends on your style. Some people might want it to be on the side of the light, but I tend to put the details on the side of the dark. And it looks more scaly than, bumpy because we didn't do that. So let's do a little of that. Yeah, that's better. I'll be honest, I don't do rat tails much. Which is a shocker, as much fantasy art as I've done. It's not my first time, but definitely don't do them much. And see, Darktide, I'm tempted to put Darktide in my top 5 because it's so good and it's such a good introduction for Warhammer 40k. But it's also kind of a clone of another one of my top 5. So I'm hesitant. And it's not Final Fantasy VII. So spoiler alert, I already know what 2 more of my top 5 are. Okay. Let's get the outside a bit darker line. That's too dark. Or thick. I keep saying dark. It's thick. It's not dark. I guess I'm forgetting the background too. We gotta do a background. But that's after everything. Sometimes I'll do a background before, sometimes I'll do a background after. It's probably dependent upon the piece. Um, More than likely because some pieces the background needs to be a lot more of the piece. Um, like Frank Frazetta, his backgrounds were not usually the centerpiece of what he was doing. But sometimes you could tell he focused on the background. Sometimes he didn't, and you could tell. Sometimes he did, and you could tell. And then what we could do is we could also just do this, put little diamonds occasionally. So if I'm doing something where the background is, basically a character in and of itself, it's capturing a lot of the story of the picture, then I will probably do the background first. I tend to do my background as a painting, like acrylic style. Um, I suck at watercolors and oils because they're kind of backwards to the other mediums. So it's just a preference. I'm not saying your oils and your watercolors suck. I'm saying mine do. Okay. And yeah, if I was doing pure black and white, I would of course be darkening in a lot of this piece with black ink with my calligraphy brush. Instead, we are going to use the calligraphy brush, but we're going to switch to something else. First, we got to do the saliva though, because I forgot the saliva. Okay, so since we're done with our line art, so we can actually get rid of the sketch. You just swoop and then hit delete. As you can see, there's also lock and duplicate. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Duplicate just makes another one. That's our background, right? Yes. So we're going to turn the opacity down on this now, and we're going to focus on his spittle. And just have fun with it. And we'll probably go ahead and make solid lines. But we're probably going to edit those in just a second, which I'll show you a nice trick for that. Take a sec to update the top 5. All right. Woof. Yeah, man. This top 5 is fairly easy, at least so far. And yeah, I've played the Final Fantasy remake a couple times. It's really good. Final Fantasy VII remake. Um, do I like it better than the original? I doubt that. I remember when the original came out and just the awesomeness that it was. I know people nowadays say that it's garbage, but I mean, they weren't around at the time, so. It may not hold up as far as visually. The original may not hold up visually to, to other video games, of course. But, dude, at the time, the graphics were still good. Not gonna say great. The graphics were still good. It was trend breaking for the series itself. Um, and the story is still phenomenal. Phenom. Cloud was a good character that kind of shaped video game characters afterwards. I mean, Squall was just a cheap knockoff, if we're honest. Um, so I'm going to turn that layer off, and then what I'm going to do is so there's two ways to do this. You can select and see how I've got color fill on the bottom right selected. So you can get a nice gray. And it will automatically update it because you had it selected with color fill. But you can also see, if I zoom in, it leaves kind of a liney, like an outline, which is not great. So you can actually select it again, and it'll do that. So if you do it twice, it should take care of that nasty outline that Procreate gives it. And then we're going to add another layer. We're going to not select, but reference that layer. And then we're going to make it even, well, a little too much, a little lighter. And as you can see, Procreate will show you the color you have now, and on the left, and then on the right, it's showing you the color that you're moving around and their relationship, basically. So we're going to select a little less. And since we've got that top layer as a reference, we can actually just drag and drop into the borders of that top layer. And then it says you want to continue filling, you hit yes, or just click on it. You don't actually hit yes. Just click on it, and so that means that I didn't, yep, there's a line break right there. So we can fix that. It's probably the best thing to do. It's probably going to count that as one as well. Might count that as one as well. Okay. And we go back. We start over. Continue filling. Yes. This takes a lot of the fun away from coloring. I talk about the fun that coloring is and the stress management that coloring is a lot. so I don't always do that, but it is an option that you have, so I wanted to make sure you were aware of it. More often than not, I just color. It takes a lot more time, but relieves a lot of stress. Okay, so now you got saliva. And it looks a bit dark, but that's on purpose, because what we're going to do is we're going to make it opaque. See? Ain't that cool? It's so cool. And then we're going to turn it off because we're not going to worry about that now. And we're going to make another layer. Opacity's good. We can reference this one and then do the same thing. So we're starting with kind of a medium gray. This is probably not a good idea, actually. Reference on this, probably not the greatest idea. We can do some stuff, like we can get the tentacle out of the way, but even then, yeah, we're not going to do reference on this one. We're going to turn reference off. Because if we leave reference on, then it's always going to reference. And I'll show you why that's bad. So we'll start with the hairy stuff. The rat hairy stuff. Okay. And this is your coloring phase. This is still not the shading phase. And this is really the same even if we weren't doing grayscale. Like just consider this could be a brown. In fact, a lot of time, well, I'm not going to say a lot of times. Sometimes when I do book entries like this, what I'll do is I will go ahead and make the color sometimes. Oh, that's bad. And then I'll change the saturation later. But, and that's because it gives them like some ads that they don't have to pay for. I'm not doing double work to get them a little free stuff. But most of the time if I do that, I'd say probably a third of the time I do it that way. 2/3 of the time if I make the colored version for them, it's the opposite. I'll go ahead and do this, and then I'll do the colors. Oop. After. And I'll show you how to do that too. Some quick ways to do that. I've already shown you one way to do that, but there's also another way to do it. And I know I did that last color real quick without telling you how, so I'll make up for it in just a second. Yeah, I don't like that. I'll stick to the line on that one. This is just like the coloring tips you learned in kindergarten. Outline it first, and then color. Your kindergarten lessons are going to be helpful in Procreate. Which is good when you're like me and working with a kindergarten intellectual. Intellect level. See? And honestly, I'm embellishing. I mean, I'm sitting here coloring it like a coloring book when you don't have to do that. You could just outline the whole thing like this. Ta-da. I'm embellishing. It's that stress management I was talking about. Okay, I missed something. Where did I miss something? It's not there, is it? I don't think it is. Oh, it's right there at the end. Ta-da! So what I did is, I'll go back. So I've got it outlined, and then you just go up to the color, bring it down, boom. And then, like I was about to do earlier, we'll use that same color here, but I want to reserve a lighter color, and then a lighter color still, just below here. And then outline, like so. Then drag your color, zing. I'm just not liking that nose like that. Better? I guess it's better. Part of me wants to make that arm dark because it seems out of the ordinary. Might do that. I think I'm going to do that. You expect this arm to be kind of fleshy, so I want to make it dark. Or half dark. It's kind of a half dark. Darker. Darkish. My nails, like, never match my skin color, so. Maybe the claw, too. Kinda. If I do the claw, I have to do the rest of the chitin. What's the problem with that? Nah. The claw will do a little darker. So we got another layer for the claw, or for the chitin, rather. And it's just the same scenario. We outline it. I guess that's the chitin, isn't it? Yeah. And then maybe the orc looking eye. Make it red. Well, I say red. I imagine it red, so it's going to be darker. Part of me wants this. I think I want to make some of this darker. And when you're doing this, you got to remember which layers are on top because it will cover the one below it. Since I've got that lighter color below here, if I accidentally skip into it, it's gonna color over that lighter color. Does dadgum fly? What did I miss? What did I miss? I honestly don't know what I missed here. Doesn't look like I missed anything. Fascinating. And I'll be honest, sometimes Procreate just does this. Like it will stop sensing things for color drops for some reason. It's really just color drops, but for some reason it stops sensing borders for color drops and you have to reset it. That might be where we're at. Nope. So it's probably me. Now those two shades are not, because that's what they are, they're shades. They're not colors. They're void of color. They're void of saturation. Those two shades are not very different, so we will probably fix that in just a moment. Okay. And then we'll go way lighter. And I'll probably do it down here. We'll probably keep lighter on the bottom. Actually, let's do an intermission right quick. I'll go refill my glass. And then we'll come back and try to get those last two video games into my head and finish up these color layers. So take a quick break, take your 5, smoke if you got it. I'll smoke when I get back. See you in a second. All right, see, that wasn't so bad. Let's see. I do like Dark Tide a lot, and it was a really good introduction to the Warhammer 40k universe. So it might appear in my top 5 anyway. That being said, the first Space Marine was really good too, and had a hell of PvP. Although, and not many people remember this, the 40k came out with a game called Fire Warrior back in the day. I'm going to guess around 2004. Fire Warrior was great. I think it was 2004-ish. The new Warhammer Classics coming out is going to have Fire Warrior on it. So I'm going to have to pick that up and play it again. Been too long. Oh, oh, I know another one of my top 5. I know another one of my top 5. Why did I not think of it earlier? Hells yeah. Earthworm Jim was so good. Gotta be in the top 5. Okay, so this is probably going to be the tongue layer. And I'm old, so like I've been around for the entire video game, revolution, evolution, however you want to view it. So I'm trying to go way back and make sure I include credit where it's due. Much like I was saying with Final Fantasy VII, I mean, there were Atari 2600 games that you look back at them and the graphics are shit, so you don't want to give them any credit. But it's only shit compared to where graphics are today, technology is today. Back then, some of them were cutting edge. Like Galaga. Galaga's probably going to be in my top 5. Yeah, that's probably going to be number 5. I'll give it some consideration, but probably going to be top 5. The original Ninja Turtles arcade game. Pretty damn good. Spent a lot of quarters getting to the point where I didn't need to spend any quarters, or any more quarters, I suppose, on the Ninja Turtles arcade game. Mortal Kombat. There was this one game on the 2600. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I want to say it started with a Y. And you played this insect ship. Yar's Revenge? Might be the name of it. Yar's Revenge might be the name of it. I played the hell out of that game too. Yar's Revenge. Dragon's Lair. I mean, that was trend setting. I don't think it'd make my top 5. That game was so hard. I played a lot of Gyromites. Excite Pike. Pitfall. Another 2600 game. I went into NES with Gyromite and Excite Pike, but I did play a lot of Pitfall. Super Dodgeball, speaking of NES, played a lot of that. Played a lot of Castle on the computer. No graphics on that one. That's how old I am. I'm so old, I'm pre-graphics. Don't worry, I know they're not that different. Shade, we'll fix it. Most important thing now is just getting the different layer. So that'll be roughly the same color as his nose, I suppose. His? Hers? Its nose? Why don't we extend that a little bit? We'll make that the same color over here too. The tusk is the main reason why I'm doing this, actually. We want it to pop. This will make it pop. Oh, don't want to do that yet. Now. Well, I missed something, didn't I? Oh yeah, I didn't do the other side. Well, no, that shouldn't matter. What did I not do? It's not down here, is it? Maybe. Oh, it's right there. Again, at the bottom. Memo to self. Clean up the bottom. I guess we'll go ahead and do this here. Actually, let's clean that up a little. And then oh, I got some fur right there I missed. If I'm going too fast and losing you, just say so and I'll backtrack. Now, there's a couple of ways you can go through and you can um, merge the colors better or smudge the colors, however you want to word that. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can use the smudge tool, which is right up there it's in between the eraser and the brush. Um, you can use the smudge tool, but the smudge tool's a little difficult. I'm going to say difficult to use. You really have to get used to it. You can also, excuse me, you can use an airbrush over, since we're doing descending darkness, you can use an airbrush over the next layer. You can use your eraser and pick an airbrush for your eraser, because, you know, an artist is only as good as his eraser, like I always say. Or you could try to manage your Gaussian blur. Managing the Gaussian blur gets a little difficult, not gonna lie, because um, if you blur it too much, which is probably what you're going to need to do to blend your colors, if you blur it too much, you're going to have to go through and then make the edges more distinct, if that makes sense. So basically close to your line borders, to your line art, you're going to have to go through and you're going to have to do those edges again, which is not that big of a deal. So if that's quicker for you, do it that way. It's probably the quickest way, because what's going to happen is if you go the airbrush route or the eraser route, eraser airbrush, whichever airbrush route you go, if you go that route, then you're going to get caught up in the same thing I'm always talking about. It's just so tempting to get caught up in coloring, and airbrushing is no exception to that. So if you go that route, you're probably going to get caught up, and it's going to take longer. Okay. I think one more lightness route. In fact, I think I'm gonna erase the nose. We'll do it this way. We'll select the nose, and then we will cut the nose. I think I want the nose to be this color, or shade, rather. But I may not worry about blending because this is going to be so small. Again, this is only a quarter page, so it's really going to be like that big on the page. So the blending will actually take away probably some of the awesomeness, if I'm honest. Probably do one more lower shade layer. Let's see how that works. If I don't like it, we'll just combine them. Oh, the sun's out. Welcome to Texas. If Texas hears that you have an idea what the weather's going to be, it'll change it. That's how I lost 4 gardens last year. Oh, I can't do that. I gotta go back. That's just gonna look too... Yeah, I can't use that same shade below there. I can use it over here though. And that's just me managing the contrast. If I were to put this same shade below there, then the tail would blend right into that side and it would look really confusing to everybody looking at it. We ain't gonna do that. If I were going to blend this one, I would probably go the airbrush route. So if you were looking to blend this, my recommendation would be use the airbrush. Just go to the above layer and airbrush over it. Okay. Now let's fix the hair and then we'll fix the claws and then we'll move on. So that's your color grab there. We're going to grab the color of the hair. Sing. There was some more somewhere. There it is. sure that's it. I think so. Okay, and we're going to visit the dark layer. We're going to grab that color again. Oh, I see some spots I missed. Now those spots that I missed, if I'm honest, those won't be seen either once this is the correct size, but I'm still going to fix them right quick. So grab the color, fix the spots. Done. We'll have no spots on my watch. And you know, actually, we'll do a little blending here. Should have thought about this earlier. Okay. Then I want to get that color, revisit that layer. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to make this that color. So we don't interfere with the tail. Oh, actually, let's not do that. We want this spine a different color. Okay. I think that's that. Leaving the toenails, leaving all the bones. What you can do to make it pop more is you can just add some like dings and scratches. Bony fibers to the tusks and whatnot. We could have added hair to the leg, but I don't really care. Don't really care about that. You can add some more bumps to the tongue if you want. You can kind of go wild, but just remember it's gonna be a lot smaller. If this was a bigger piece, it would get more detail. You don't want to lose too much. So we're gonna refrain from doing too much of that, and instead focus on the color difference. So we kind of want that's already pretty dark. We'll play with it a little bit, but it's already pretty dark. So you can select it, you can select the layer, you can play with the darkness, but since it's already so dark, probably not going to mess with it. Instead, we'll start here. And we'll drop that, and then we'll just go down the line, drop it a little bit. Finally. And in case I'm going too fast for you, all you're doing is you're clicking on a layer. You're going up to hue, saturation, and brightness. So hue, that's your color. Hue tells you what color you're working with. So you could actually change it. But if you'll notice, if I turn the saturation all the way down, it doesn't affect what I was working with. That's because I didn't actually put any hue in the color that I picked. I picked all gray. So there's no saturation at all to work with. So there's also no hue. The brightness is really all that these layers have. So um, that's all I was messing with was the brightness. So, okay. And then what we'll do is we'll select them all. Oh yeah, and we might want to go ahead and test the saliva since we're here because we're probably going to drop the saliva a lot. No, maybe not. Let's play with it a little bit. So we'll select our saliva. We'll do the same thing. Kind of like that. Yeah, we'll do that. Right around there. Okay. Then we're going to add a layer. We'll do this first. We'll do this first. I'll show you what I was thinking about showing you a little bit. We're probably going to go around 85, and then we're probably going to want, we'll start with that one. Now what we're going to do is, generally my lighting is top left. That's my default for lighting. I've still got a game to figure out for y'all. Anyway, my light source is generally going to be top left. That's my default. However, that doesn't really make sense with the background that we had talked about for this one. So the lighting for this one is probably going to come from the back or from the front. I like the idea of the front. Now the way I showed you to do, or that we could do some fast shading prior, I'll show you it again right quick because it doesn't take long at all. So I've put all my color levels or color layers into a group. I'm going to duplicate that group because I'm going to save all those layers. And then I'm going to flatten that group. Then I'm going to duplicate my line art because I always save the line art. And then I'm going to merge it. So one quick way to do shading, and I guess I didn't do the saliva. I can do that too. Actually, we can just, what we'll do is, instead of grouping just them, what we'll do is we'll group the whole thing. So we'll group it all. Duplicate. Flatten. You can clip. You can multiply. And then you can just drop. And it makes it all darker. And then what you can do is you can either select an airbrush, which is the most fun, for your eraser, and you can go through and do like that. I know what's missing. This isn't what I'm actually doing, so I know that there's stuff missing. I'm just showing you again a quick way to do this. So you can erase in the color of your light source, and this is a very quick, contemporary way to do lighting and shading. You get the idea. So very quick and contemporary to do lighting. It's not what we're going to do. We're going to stick with what I was doing. Yeah, I don't really care about that. Doesn't really matter right now. So let's take it off there because I will forget if I don't. Am I still on calligraphy? Yes. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to do the shading myself. So if you caught my stream Wednesday, I think it was, I went over that style of shading, the quick style of shading. But I told you that's not what I do. It's because it's not what I do. This is generally what I do right here. Now you can also do a combination of the two. I think I showed you that the other day. You can do a combination of the two. You can do the quick way and then do detailed shading. Detailed shading takes a lot longer, but I like it. You also have to remember your light source a lot when doing this. So the light's coming this way, remember. So the form is going to put a shadow around here for that arm. And the arm is going to put a shadow around here for the tail. So just remember to take things like that into consideration when you're doing it this way. In fact, the head is going to get in the way too, so the tail is going to be mostly shaded. My head's getting in the way of its own hair. And you can do some of the bumps. Even the bumps that we didn't detail. Alright, that little schnoz is also going to affect the tail, like so. The ribs will affect the tail. A little higher. Bad angle. And yes, I try to do like one area or one object at a time. Just helps me remember to get them all. Or get it all. Get it all. Like with this, I keep looking for, a piece of tail. I keep looking for a piece of tail to make sure that I've finished all of the tail. One thing I didn't go over um, the other day, we don't really have to think about it when we're doing just the grayscale, but so light reflections are a thing, color reflections from light, and that includes the ground. Colors will reflect off the ground. So when you're doing colors, remember, for stuff that's close to the ground, it didn't really matter much except for on the token the other day. I didn't notice, but I did notice, but I didn't touch on it. So when you're doing coloring and lighting, remember reflections. If they're standing, like if they're standing close to a wall, if they're, if it's standing close to, if your object is close to, subject is close to the ground, what have you, then the light will reflect the colors of the environment on your subject. So let's say you've got a green ground, then you'll see some green, like in their feet if they're standing on the ground, for instance. If you've got a orange wall and they're standing against the wall, you will see some orange reflecting on their shoulder or wall or a back, whatever it is that's against the wall. So don't forget to remember environmental coloring and lighting when you're doing colors. Like I said, it's not going to matter for this because we're not using any hue, but or saturation, however you want to view that. Both, technically. Since we're not using any color, you don't really have to worry about it with this because there's no color to reflect, but typically we would worry about it. Actually, since the tail's going backwards, what I might do is I'm probably going to do, let's see this. This will look cooler. And we'll also, oh, I can show you some perspective with this. We've got time. Maybe instead of doing the background with y'all, I'll do some perspective tricks with y'all. Because the background's going to be boring anyway, you're not going to like that. Yeah, man. And again, try to remember this is only going to be a quarter of a page, so don't get too stuck up on technicalities. Digits are one of the things that are the most fun with colors um, and shading. I meant shading. When you're shading, you can have a lot of fun with digits. Since the digits have so many, folds and angles, they're fun to color. They suck to draw, but they're fun to color. If you get the line art done right, the rest is fun. Suffer through the line art, and the rest is fun. See what I mean? Digits just really add a lot of character to the shading. The old carpals and tarsals. Yeah. Okay, so angle is coming like that. So we need to make sure to. Okay, if you're wondering why, it should be obvious right now, actually. But if you're wondering why I didn't do the clipping layer, clipping mask, it's because some of my layer, or some of my objects are empty. So the whites, if you didn't notice, I didn't make any white layers. So the teeth, stuff like that, some of the nails, they don't have a color on them. So if I were to use clipping mask, there would be nothing to clip to. Yeah, so that's why I'm not using that. Which is to say that this would not show up. This shading would not show up. Now there's ways around that. I could just not use um, a multiply layer, but multiply is a very speedy and good way to do these. I think I misjudged that. It's really going to be around there. So that's mostly shadow. tusk is tricky because it's coming like this. So the tusk is gonna. I think the tusk is gonna end up being right around here. And folding. So I'm not too worried about it. Don't forget to make good use of your eraser. Oh yeah, I'm not really thinking about video games yet. Got one more, right? Gunstar Heroes was pretty good. Played a lot of Gunstar Heroes. Played a lot of the first Strider. Really seems like I should have an arcade game in there, though. I was just about raised by an arcade. Oh, Double Dragon. I put a lot of money into Double Dragon. Tekken, Tekken 2, Tekken Tag. Oh God, I know what it is. I know what it is. What the hell is wrong with me? This should have been like the easiest category. I'm not sure why this shit's taking me this long. And I'm just going to put one. That was my favorite video game series for the longest time. Man, I loved the first Resident Evil and the second Resident Evil. I might like the second Resident Evil more than the first, if I'm honest. Maybe. So scary. I remember when they both came out, and oh, they were so good, so scary. Capcom has changed so much over the years, let me tell you. Like especially the Metal Gear series. My God, how it's changed. I wish the Metal Gear series had changed or had not lost the feel that it had with Solid. Me personally, I know it's got a lot of fans, so it's a selfish request, but or not request, but wish. Told you this way takes a while. Kind of doing the easier stuff first, aren't I? How unlike me. Those are hair shadows. Not always big enough to make a difference, but sometimes. A lot of people forget that eyes pick up shade just like they pick up light. A lot of people. That was my stand dropping again, is what that was. Now the angle we're coming from, we're probably going to have, I don't think the tongue will reflect on the, or shade the top teeth, but those bottom teeth are going to be, the shade from those bottom teeth, it's going to be all over. Oh yeah, that's why. Let me turn that off. What do I want to do? I think we'll shade the saliva differently. So we're going to turn the saliva off for the shading. And yeah, I see the time. We'll keep going until the pad tells us it's got no more. Why? What did I miss? What did I miss? see anything that I missed. No, no. I missed something. If we'd have done just plain black and white, a lot of this would have been black. And of course, classic art style, it would have been crosshatch or shading, shade lines, what have you. And of course, my way is by no means perfect. I tend to look at every piece as evolution. Um, so every piece is also kind of practice. It's very rare I'm really happy with one of my pieces. I usually look back over them with a what can I do better mindset. But I think that's most artists. Maybe. Maybe not nowadays. That may not be true nowadays. It begins. can't forget your shadows. So yes, no, there's not a whole lot to really coach right now, which is why I get quiet. You're welcome to bring stuff up that I'm happy to discuss or show, go over. Because at this point, it's really just a lot of the same over and over and over. Redundant, redundant, redundant. Still the most fun part, though. Even, even, this grayscale coloring is the most fun part. Oh yeah, I guess the tongue's going to have that backside shaded too. I forgot about that. Which means we're going to get this. Yep. Perfect. Let me tell you, tedious. Shading hair, that's tedious. Because you got to remember to add some so that it doesn't look way too flat. Oh my goodness. One handy tip is when you're doing shading, shadows will hit the edge of the object making shadows, as well as the objects that that object makes shadows on. So that's why you see me doing this a lot. Something else that a lot of artists forget. They'll just do shading on one of them. Not on, they'll do shading on either the shader or the shaded, but not both. These teeth would be the prime example. So as I was saying, the teeth are going to put a lot of shade out. Obvious shade. I mean, I'm not talking about mass of shade, density of shade. I'm talking about obvious. It's going to be obvious, the shading, the shade that these teeth, project. That's the word I was looking for. So like there, and then probably there. And then this one's going to kind of come up here and almost disappear behind itself. But we want to make it a little obvious. Even if it's a little unrealistic, when you're illustrating, you kind of want to make things a little obvious. Certain things a little obvious. So we'll pull it out a little bit. That's probably our allotted time there. You get the idea. And then you can leave comments / if you're still in here, chat on whether you want me to finish this up without you or do the next one. Otherwise, I mean, unless somebody says they want me to go ahead and finish this one up on the next one, I'll probably just do something fresh on the next stream and then finish this up without you, because it's almost done. Just a few more minutes and we would have been done with this one. And like I said, it's just redundant. The only thing I'm going to do after the shading, I'm going to do the background, of course, but the shading, the only thing I'm going to do is on the shading layer, I'm going to add a Gaussian blur of probably a 2. I'd probably add a 2 to it, just to make it fuzzy. But seriously, another 10 minutes and this would have been done, 10-15 minutes. And then the background, probably would have spent another 30-45 minutes on the background. So theoretically, I could push it into the next one. And then we could take some liberties. So, oh, like the saliva, we could do distinct shading on the saliva as well. So if that's something you want to see, let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably on Monday's live stream pick a fresh piece for you. I got a lot to do anyway, so there's plenty of stuff to work with. Yeah. But for today, that covers it. And that covers my top 5 video games of all time. If there are any on the list that you haven't tried and you're a gamer, try them. If there's any on the list that you haven't tried and you're not a gamer, the only ones that I would recommend for people who aren't gamers, maybe look up. You can probably find cinematics for just the cinematics for the Mass Effects. It's just a really good story. So if you feel like looking up the cinematics for Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy, and you're not a gamer, I think it would be worth your time. because it's just a really good story on top of being a really good series of games. I think it would be worth your time. The others, if you're not a gamer, Left 4 Dead 2 is really the only one that I would recommend for not a gamer. The experience of playing Left 4 Dead 2 is is something everybody should give a whirl. Really good game, trend setting. There's a bunch of mimics of it now, and the I mean, I've still got fond memories of watching some people play it for the first time, and even my first time, screaming, "Witch, witch, there's a witch!" Peeking through doors. Yeah, so that's the only one I would recommend for non-gamers, just because I think everybody should play it, whether you're a gamer or not. Um, I've played it with a lot of non-gamers, like it was some people's first game, and they enjoyed the hell out of it. And some of them shot the shit out of me because they were so scared. It was really, really good stuff. Although the graphics may not hold up nowadays, so maybe, I don't know, maybe try a knockoff, maybe try Dark Tide. Dark Tide's also, so Dark Tide is obviously a knockoff of Left 4 Dead, but also introduces you to what I think is the coolest sci-fi setting out there, and I do a lot of work in. Um, so maybe try Dark Tide instead, but I don't know. Maybe Left 4 Dead 2 can still hold up. I'd like to think that it can. So that's the only one I would really recommend for people who aren't gamers. The others are pretty arduous. Therefore, non-gamers would not enjoy them at all. Yeah. But um, hope you learned something. Hope you had fun. If you didn't make it and you catch this later, hopefully you can make it to the next one, which will be Monday. And then, like I said, leave me a message or comment on whether you want me to finish this one up with you or finish it up uh, later on my own and then do a fresh one with you. I'm good either way. But it's been